The night I ruined my own life started with a message I wasn't supposed to see. It wasn't dramatic. No glowing screen in a dark room, no trembling hands, just a casual moment, a careless glance, the kind that happens 1,000 times without consequence until it doesn't. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while I was rinsing a glass. I wasn't snooping. I never had to. We weren't that kind of couple, or at least that's what I believed. But the name on the screen wasn't saved. Just a number. And beneath it, a message that hit like a quiet gunshot. Tonight, don't be late, he won't know. I remember the exact second everything shifted. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even suspicion. It was a crack, small, invisible, but deep enough that something inside me slipped out of place and never quite settled again. I dried my hands slowly, staring at the message as if it might rearrange itself into something innocent. It didn't. From the living room, her voice floated in, light, cheerful, untouched by whatever that message meant. Hey, can you grab my charger from the bedroom? Normal. Everything sounded normal. I picked up her phone. My thumb hovered over the screen for half a second too long. Then I locked it. Because that's what trust looks like, right? You don't check. You don't question. You don't let one strange message unravel years of love. At least, that's what I told myself. I walked into the bedroom, grabbed the charger, and handed it to her. She smiled. God, that smile. It used to feel like home. That night, it felt like a mask I couldn't quite see through. We had been married for 6 years. 6 solid, ordinary, beautifully boring years. No screaming matches. No broken dishes. No dramatic ultimatums. Just routines, quiet dinners, weekend grocery runs, the occasional argument about what to watch on Netflix that ended with us falling asleep halfway through something neither of us cared about. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe, and I built my entire life around that safety. Around her. Her name was Alina. And if you had asked me that morning what she meant to me, I would have said everything. Without hesitation. Without doubt. Without knowing that by midnight, I wouldn't recognize her at all. The message stayed with me. It followed me to work, sat beside me during meetings, whispered in the back of my mind every time I tried to focus on something else. Tonight. Don't be late. He won't know. 3 simple lines. 3 quiet betrayals. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe she was planning something. My birthday had passed, but maybe something delayed. A small gathering, a late celebration. That explanation felt thin. But it was something. And when you're desperate to believe, something is enough. So I held on to it. Tightly. Like a man clinging to a story he needs to be true. At 5:47 p.m., she called me. Hey, she said, her voice warm, effortless. Are you coming home late tonight? There it was. My chest tightened. Yeah, I said slowly. Probably. Why? Oh, nothing. Just I might head out for a bit. Girls' thing. Girls' thing. The words landed softly. Too softly. Sounds fun, I replied. Yeah, she said. It should be. A pause. Then. I love you. I closed my eyes. I love you too. And for the first time since we'd been together, it felt like a lie. I left work early. I told myself I was being ridiculous. That I was overthinking. That I'd get home, laugh at myself, maybe even feel guilty for doubting her. But I still left early. Because something inside me refused to stay seated. The house was quiet when I got back. Empty. Too empty. Her shoes weren't by the door. Her purse was gone. The bedroom was off. Not messy. Not clean. Just rushed. Like someone had been there, but didn't want to leave evidence of being there. I stood in the middle of the room, scanning it like a stranger. And that's when I noticed it. The dress. Black. Simple. Elegant. The one she said she was saving for something special. It wasn't in the closet. It was gone. And suddenly, the message didn't feel vague anymore. It felt specific. Deliberate. Real. At 7:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from her. "Don't wait up, might be late," read. A heart. A small, harmless symbol. And somehow, it hurt more than the message I wasn't supposed to see. Because this one was meant for me. And it was still a lie. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Too long. Long enough for the sun to dip below the horizon. Long enough for the silence to become unbearable. Long enough for the crack inside me to widen into something sharp. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and made a decision I still think about every single day. I followed her. I didn't know where I was going. Not really. But I had one thing she didn't expect me to have. A location. Weeks ago, she had shared her location with me after getting lost driving to a new salon. Just in case, she had said. We never turned it off. Because we trusted each other. Funny how trust works. It gives you access to the exact moment it gets destroyed. The blue dot on my phone moved slowly across the city. Then stopped. A house. Not a bar. Not a restaurant. A house. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. This is fine, I muttered to myself. Surprise party, that's all this is. I parked down the street. Sat there. Watching. Waiting. Convincing myself that I was about to walk into something harmless. Something joyful. Something I'd laugh about later. At 8:03 p.m., I stepped out of the car. The night air was cool. Too calm. Like the world didn't realize what it was about to witness. I walked toward the house slowly. Each step heavier than the last. The windows glowed warm with light. Voices drifted out, laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. It sounded like a party. Relief flickered in my chest. See? You're an idiot. You doubted her for no reason. This is your surprise. You're about to feel really stupid. I almost smiled. Almost. I reached the front door. It wasn't locked. Of course it was. Why would it be? This wasn't a secret. Not really. Just not meant for me. I pushed the door open. And everything changed. SURPRI. The word died halfway through the room. Not because they saw me, but because I saw them. Time doesn't slow down in moments like that. That's a lie people tell. It speeds up. Everything happens too fast and too clearly all at once. Too sharp. Too real. Too impossible to misunderstand. She was standing in the center of the room. In that black dress. The one she said she was saving. Her hair done. Her smile wide. Her eyes. Not on me. On him. He had his hand on her waist. Not casually. Not politely. Possessively. Like it belonged there. Like she belonged there. With him. And then. She laughed. Not the polite laugh she used with strangers. Not the soft laugh she gave me at dinner. No. This was different. Freer. Lighter. Happier. Like she was more herself in that moment than she had ever been with me. The room went silent. Slowly. One by one, faces turned. Eyes landed on me. Confusion. Shock. Guilt. And then. Hers. Our eyes met. And I watched it happen. The exact second her world collapsed into mine. Elena, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded distant. Detached. Like it belonged to someone watching from far away. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't even breathe. The man beside her did. He stepped back. Slowly. Like he was removing himself from a crime scene. What is this? I asked. No yelling. No anger. Just a question. The simplest question in the world. And somehow, the hardest one to answer. She started. Then stopped. Because there was nothing she could say that would make sense of what I was seeing. Surprise party, I continued. A hollow laugh escaped me. Is that what this is? No one spoke. Because everyone in that room knew exactly what this was. Except me. At least until now. I wasn't supposed to be here, right? I said. It wasn't a question. It was a realization. Her lips parted. But still, no words came out. And that's when it hit me. Not the betrayal. Not the anger. Not even the humiliation. The truth. This wasn't the first time. You don't plan something like this overnight. You don't look that comfortable. That natural. That connected. Unless it's been happening for a while. How long? I asked. Quietly. Dangerously calm. She shook her head. I can explain. How long, Alina? The room held its breath. And then, she said it. 3 months. 3 months. 90 days. 90 days of smiles. Of I love you. Of dinners. Of routines. Of a life I thought was real. My chest tightened. Not like a heart attack. Not like pain. Just pressure. Like something inside me was collapsing in on itself. And this, I gestured around the room. The party, the message, the he won't know. Silence. I laughed again. This time, it sounded broken. God, you weren't even careful. It's not what you think, she said. And there it was. The most predictable lie in the world. Really, I replied. Because it looks exactly like what I think. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't feel anything when I saw them. Not sympathy. Not anger. Nothing. Please, she whispered. Let's talk somewhere else. No, I said. Firm. Final. You wanted a crowd, you got one. The man stepped forward. Hey, maybe we should. Don't, I cut him off. Not loudly. Just enough. You've done enough. He froze. Because he knew. They all knew. I looked back at her. Really looked. And for the first time in 6 years, I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. Who are you? I asked. That's when she broke. And that's when everything really began. Who are you? I asked. The question didn't echo. It didn't hang dramatically in the air. It just landed. Heavy. Final. Irreversible. And for the first time since I walked into that house, Alina's composure shattered completely. Her lips trembled. Her shoulders dropped. And whatever version of herself she had been holding together in front of that room slipped. I'm still me, she whispered. But even she didn't sound convinced. No, I said quietly, you're not. I took a step forward. Not aggressive. Not threatening. Just closer. Close enough to see the tiny details I used to love. The faint freckle near her cheek, the way her eyeliner always smudged just a little at the corner. Close enough to realize those details meant nothing now. You don't get to be the same person after this, I continued. That version of you, the one I married, she doesn't exist anymore. A few people shifted uncomfortably behind her. Someone coughed. Someone else grabbed their drink like it might anchor them to anything other than this moment. Nobody left. Of course they didn't. People don't walk away from train wrecks. They watch. Please, Alina said again, her voice cracking. Can we just go home and talk about this? Home. The word hit harder than anything else she'd said. Because suddenly, I couldn't picture it. Our couch. Our kitchen. Our bed. They all felt contaminated. Like scenes from a story that had been rewritten without me. Home, I repeated. A slow, hollow smile pulled at my lips. You mean the place you leave to come here? That's not fair, she said quickly. I let out a short laugh. Not fair. I gestured around the room again. You're throwing a secret party with your boyfriend, and you want to talk about fair. The word boyfriend seemed to ripple through the crowd. A few people looked at him. Really looked at him this time. As if acknowledging him made this whole thing more real. He shifted again. Uncomfortable. But not ashamed. That part didn't go unnoticed. Elena, I said softer now, say it. Her brows furrowed. Say what? That he's your boyfriend. Her breathing hitched. Her eyes darted to him. Then back to me. She hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Wow, I muttered. Even now, you still can't be honest. It's complicated, she said. No, I snapped. And that was the first time my voice actually rose. Not a yell. But sharp. Cutting. It's not complicated, you either are or you are. Silence. Then, barely audible. I am. There it was. Clean. Simple. Final. Something inside me shifted again. But this time, it wasn't cracking. It was settling. Like a storm that had finally decided to become destruction instead of chaos. I nodded slowly. Okay. That seemed to confuse her more than anything else. Okay, she repeated. Yeah, I said. Okay. I turned away from her. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just done with that part of the conversation. Who are all these people? I asked, addressing the room now. Nobody answered. Friends, I continued. His friends, yours, ours. A woman near the back shifted awkwardly. They're mostly his, she admitted quietly. Of course they were. I let out a breath. So let me get this straight. I turned back to Elena. You built an entire second life, and I didn't even exist in it. That's not true, she said quickly. You matter. Stop, I cut her off. Don't say things you don't mean just to make yourself feel better. I do mean it, she insisted. Tears were falling freely now. I never stopped caring about you. Caring, I echoed. Is that what this is? I gestured toward him again. Because it looks a lot like replacement. That's not fair, she repeated, weaker this time. Stop saying that, I said. Nothing about this is fair. A long silence followed. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Unavoidable. And then, he spoke. Look, he said, stepping forward again. This isn't the place for this. You're upset, and that's understandable, but maybe you should. I turned to him slowly. And whatever he saw in my expression, it made him stop. You don't get to tell me what I should do, I said quietly. I'm just saying. No, I interrupted. You're just existing in a space you had no right to step into. That's not entirely on me, he replied, a hint of defensiveness creeping in. And there it was. The audacity. I tilted my head slightly. You're right, I said. It's not entirely on you. Then I looked at Elena. It's mostly on her. That landed. Hard. She flinched like I had physically hit her. But let's not pretend you're innocent, I continued, turning back to him. You knew she was married. He didn't answer. Didn't you? I pressed. Yeah, he admitted. Good, I said. Just making sure we're all on the same page. Another silence. Then I asked the question I had been avoiding since the moment I walked in. Do you love him? Elena's entire body stiffened. Answer me. Her voice shook. And that's when I realized something. She wasn't struggling because she didn't know. She was struggling because she did. Yes, she whispered. The word didn't break me. It didn't shatter anything. Because by then, there was nothing left to break. I nodded again. Slow. Measured. Okay, I repeated. Then I took a step back. And another. Elena, I said. She looked up at me, desperate. Like she was waiting for something. A fight. A scream. A plea. Anything. But I didn't give her that. I hope he was worth it. Her face crumpled. Because you didn't just lose me tonight, I continued. You lost everything we built. That's not true, she started. It is, I said. Firm. Certain. Because even if you walked out of here with me right now, even if you begged, cried, promised. I shook my head. I would never look at you the same again. Tears streamed down her face. And you know that, I added softly. She did. I could see it. That was the worst part. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. But the understanding. The mutual recognition that whatever we had was gone. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she said. I let out a quiet breath. Funny thing about betrayal, I replied. It never does. The room felt smaller now. Like the walls were closing in on a story that had already ended. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my wedding ring. And for a second, just a second, my hand hesitated. 6 years. Memories. Promises. A life. Then I placed it gently on the table beside the door. No dramatic throw. No anger. Just finality. A quiet ending to something that once felt permanent. Elena, I said one last time. She looked at me like she was drowning. I hope you find whatever it is you were looking for. Then I turned, walked to the door. And this time, nobody tried to stop me. Not her. Not him. Not anyone. Because some endings don't need witnesses. They just need silence. The door closed behind me with a soft click. And just like that, 6 years of my life were over. But the story, it wasn't finished yet. Not even close. The strange thing about losing everything is how quiet the world becomes afterward. No dramatic music. No thunder. No cinematic rain pouring down while you collapse in the middle of the street. Just silence. A kind of silence that doesn't comfort you, it exposes you. I sat in my car for a long time after I left that house. Hands still on the steering wheel. Engine off. Eyes open, but not really seeing anything. Because my mind wasn't in that car. It was replaying everything. Her voice. His hand on her waist. That laugh. God, that laugh. I used to think betrayal would feel explosive. Like anger. Like rage. Like something loud and uncontrollable. But it was. It was hollow. Like someone had reached inside my chest and removed something vital, leaving behind an empty space I didn't know how to fill. I don't remember driving home. I must have. Because suddenly I was there. Standing in front of the house that used to feel like mine. The porch light was still on. She always left it on for me. A small habit. A small act of care. A small lie. I stared at that light longer than I should have. Then I walked inside. Everything was exactly the same. The couch. The coffee table. The faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. Normal. Painfully normal. That was the hardest part. Nothing had changed. Except everything. I walked into the bedroom. Opened the closet. Her side was still full. Clothes hanging neatly. Shoes lined up. That empty space where the black dress used to be now felt like a wound. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I started packing. Not her things. Mine. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It just made sense. Because staying there felt like trying to live inside a memory that had already rejected me. I grabbed a suitcase. Threw in clothes without thinking. Didn't care about matching outfits or what I'd need. Just enough to leave. Every item I picked up felt like a reminder. A shirt she bought me. A watch she gave me on our anniversary. A hoodie she used to steal and wear around the house. I paused when I reached that one. Held it for a second longer than everything else. Then packed it anyway. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because I wasn't ready to let go of every piece of that life all at once. By the time I zipped the suitcase, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. I left the keys on the kitchen counter, next to her charger, the same charger she asked me for just hours ago. Funny how quickly time rewrites meaning. I didn't leave a note. There was nothing left to say. And then I walked out. For the second time that night. I closed a door without knowing what waited on the other side. The next few days blurred together. I stayed at a small apartment I rented years ago before we got married. It was still in my name. Bare. Dusty. Forgotten. Kind of like me. I ignored calls. Texts. Emails. Not just from her. From everyone. Because once something like that happens, you realize how exhausting explanations are. People don't really want to understand. They want details. Drama. Something they can process in simple terms. She cheated. He left. Sad story. But it's never that simple. It's 6 years of memories collapsing into one moment. It's trust turning into doubt. It's love turning into something unrecognizable. And how do you explain that without sounding broken? So I didn't. On the 4th day, she showed up. I knew she would. Eventually. The knock on the door wasn't aggressive. It wasn't desperate. It was hesitant. Like she wasn't sure she had the right to be there anymore. She didn't. I opened the door anyway. Elena stood there. Different. Not physically. She looked the same. Same hair. Same eyes. Same face I had memorized over 6 years. But something in her had shifted. The confidence she had at that party was gone. Replaced by something fragile. Something uncertain. I didn't know where else to go, she said softly. I leaned against the doorframe. Didn't invite her in. That's not my problem anymore, I replied. The words came out colder than I expected. But they didn't feel wrong. She flinched. I needed to talk to you, she said. We talked, I answered. At the party. That wasn't talking, she said quickly. That was everything falling apart. I tilted my head slightly. And what do you think this is? She didn't answer. Silence stretched between us. Uncomfortable. Heavy. I ended it, she said suddenly. There it was. The line she thought would change everything. I didn't react. With him, she added. I ended it the next day. Still nothing. I made a mistake, she continued, her voice breaking. A horrible, stupid mistake. No, I said. She stopped. That wasn't a mistake, I continued. That was a series of choices. Her eyes filled with tears again. It didn't mean anything, she whispered. I actually laughed. Not loudly. Not mockingly. Just tired. You told me you loved him, I said. I was confused. No, I interrupted. You were honest. That hit harder than anything else. Because deep down, she knew it was true. I was unhappy, she admitted. I nodded slowly. Then you should have left. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I looked at her. Really looked. And this did. She broke. Completely. I didn't think it would go this far, she cried. That's the problem, I replied. You didn't think. Another silence. Then she whispered the words I knew were coming. Can we fix this? And there it was. The final question. I took a deep breath. Not because I needed time, but because I wanted to answer without anger. Without bitterness. Just truth. No. The word landed clean. Sharp. Final. Her face crumpled like something physically shattered inside her. Please, she begged. I shook my head. Even if I wanted to, I said quietly, I wouldn't know how. Tears streamed down her face. I don't trust you, I continued. And without that, there's nothing. I can earn it back. No, I said gently. You can't. She covered her mouth, trying to hold in the sobs. Trust isn't something you rebuild, I added. It's something you protect. And she had destroyed it. I love you, she said. I closed my eyes for a second. I know, I replied. And that was the truth. She probably did. In her own way. In a broken, inconsistent, selfish way. But love without loyalty is just a feeling. And feelings don't build lives. Actions do. I'm filing for divorce, I said. That was it. The final blow. She staggered back slightly. Like the ground beneath her had shifted. You don't mean that, she whispered. I do. You're just hurt. I'm done, I corrected. Silence. Final. She stood there for a long moment. Waiting. Hoping. But nothing changed. Because this time, I didn't hesitate. Eventually, she turned. Walked away slowly. And just like that, she became a stranger again. Months passed. The divorce was finalized. Clean. Quick. Emotionally brutal. I didn't fight for the house. Didn't argue over assets. Didn't drag things out. Because none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was moving forward. And that's the part people don't talk about. Revenge isn't always loud. It's not always dramatic. It's not always about making the other person suffer. Sometimes, it's quieter than that. It's waking up one day and realizing you don't think about them first anymore. It's rebuilding your life piece by piece. It's becoming someone stronger. Not because of what happened, but in spite of it. The last time I saw Alina was by accident. A grocery store. Of all places. She looked different. Not broken. Not destroyed. Just smaller. Like life had humbled her in ways I didn't need to witness. Our eyes met. And for a moment, 6 years flashed between us. But this time, there was no pain. No anger. Just distance. She gave a small nod. I returned it. And then we kept walking. In opposite directions. No words. No closure. Because sometimes, closure isn't something you get from the other person. It's something you give yourself. And that night, the night I walked into that house uninvited, I lost a wife. But I found something else. Clarity. And in the end, that was worth everything.